And let's do a cosmology segment. Now, cosmology is super important as heliophysics is not even really fully understood. And so we would like to understand it. And it's part of the reason why we have a channel. So I consider heliophysics to be part of cosmology, as cosmology is all based on the evolution of the sun, the believed life cycle of stars, and so on, the HR diagram. And to make a long story short, the idea is that we know what's going on in the cores of distant galaxies is all based on understanding what's going on in the core of the sun. And we'll touch again on that later in the cosmology segment. First, let's pick a random number between 1 and 1031. Today's random number is 740, which will coincide with some object, the Neil Gorell Swift Bat X-ray Observatory. 740 is Swift J1753.7-2544, which is a null. So this object has quite a variable X-ray output, as you can see here in the historic chart. We even saw it go into a quiescent state here for a couple of years, about a year and a half, between 2018 and 2020. Here are the past 30 days of its X-ray transients. And let's see if we can get a look at this at the Simbad. So I'll just do a quick search for that. J1753 not showing up. Let's see if it shows up on Aladdin Light. Not showing up there either. And we'll do a quick search for it. See if we can figure out what that is. It is an X-ray source, obviously. And here it looks like we have an article about it. Anyway, we don't want to spend too much time on it as it is part of the daily space weather. Perhaps more about J1753.7-2554 at a later time. Let's talk about the solar storm that happened in 1582, documented by at least some Portuguese scribes. In early March of 1582, across the globe in feudal Japan, observers in Kyoto noted the same fiery red display in their skies too. So we were able to, people were seeing aurorae as far south as Florida and Egypt and southern Japan, as low as 28 degrees of latitude. Saw this particular solar storm. At that part of the sky, all that part of the sky appeared burning in fiery flames. It seemed the sky was burning, wrote Pero Ruiz Soares, an eyewitness in Lisbon, the author of a 16th century Portuguese chronicle. Nobody remembered having seen something like that at midnight. Great fire rose above the castle, which were dreadful and fearful. The following day it happened at the same time, at the same hour, but it was not so great and terrifying. Everybody went to the countryside to see the great sign. There's a coronal mass ejection induced aurora from 2010. And this article is on Cosmos magazine. And sometimes we see solar flares associated with coronal mass ejections, and sometimes we don't. It's part of the reason why we have a channel. I'm sorry, it's not on Cosmos magazine. It's on Universe Today, universetoday.com, about the 1582 powerful solar storm to strike the Earth. We've also got a phys.org article about why we need to get better at predicting space weather. And somebody dropped phys.org a line about our channel. Maybe they'll feature our channel as an article. Since we've repeatedly demonstrated our capabilities, obviously the reasons to be able to forecast space weather are increasingly important, folks, with the increased emphasis on space, space exploration, moon missions, Mars missions, etc. It's super obvious why we need to forecast space weather better. And so I guess I probably don't have to convince many of our viewers on that. But there is an article on phys.org in the Astronomy and Space section entitled Why We Need to Get Better at Predicting Space Weather. And again, I would remind our viewers that the sun is the Rosetta Stone of all cosmology, because until we understand the way the sun is really doing what it's doing, we will not understand the rest of cosmology. And let me just re-emphasize the fact that I'm about to explain the mechanism behind the solar sunspot cycles and the solar polar field reversal cycles. It's going to happen. We just can't make a video about it until I write the paper and submit it for peer review. At that moment, we'll make a video about it. It should be interesting, and that's today's Cosmology segment.